Hello and welcome to our beginner workout. This is a very beginner workout for those of you who are deconditioned, you haven't worked out in a long time, maybe you're really overweight or obese or you're elderly, then this workout is perfect for you. It'll really take you through some great movements for a very beginner range.
Yeah, we have, our beginner workouts in this that have to do with resistance training, but if you haven't done any of that type of training in a long time or never before, this is a good way to ease into it because it's very light resistance, it's going to be very low impact on your joints, and it's a good way to just wake up the muscles that have been dormant for a long time. And so we highly recommend doing this. We also want you to start by visiting the warm-up section, and do not start any of these resistance training exercises or any of these workouts altogether without doing a proper warm-up. So we highly recommend first visiting that section, making sure you go through all that and do that properly before doing anything in terms of these workouts. All right, first things first, we're gonna take you over to the wall, and you're going to just do press-ups. It's like a push-up, only against the wall. So obviously when you first start off, having your body straight up like this is not gonna be very hard. So maybe just a slight tilt like that. You lean your feet up, a little bit away from the wall and just start doing push-ups like this. And then as you get better, you can move your feet further out. But just make sure that you have something behind them so you don't slip out and fall. Make sure it's nice and safe before you do any of these moves. So that's going to be your first move against the wall, and we want you to superset this with some leg kickbacks. So Amanda's going to be right up here against the wall, and she's just going to kick back her leg as high up as possible, trying to squeeze her glutes at the top. And you want to go around 10 to 12 and then switch legs, but really with these workouts, it's really just listening to your body, waiting to feel the burn in the muscle, waiting to actually feel it in the area. And if you feel tightness in another area other than the muscle being worked, that's a good indication that you need to work on some mobility, you need to work on more full body training and address that muscle. Say it's your lower back that's kind of tweaked in that muscle, in that movement, well then you need to work on strengthening your lower back muscle. So this is going to kind of give you cues and clues on things that you need to work on later. So now on to the next move. All right, next we're going to work on the squat pattern. And just to make sure that you are doing this safely, we want you to use a chair at the very start. And as you can see, watch Amanda sit down into a squat. You're going to make sure that you're sitting back into your heels and stand up. And you want to make sure you're not using your hands at all when you're standing back up. So if you can't do it at the very start, I recommend putting a book or maybe a blanket, something that can give you kind of a booster seat at the very start. Make sure you're starting at a height that's comfortable with you, and then you can do several reps, like 10 to 12 reps with. So, so say if there's a situation where you can't do the movement, well, you can put something like that under and look, and so she's now coming down at a smaller range of motion, and it's much easier for her to stand back up. So start with that and do a couple sets of this, and as you progress and as you get better and you get less sore after the workouts, you can start doing more sets. All right, this next one I'm sure you've heard of. It's going to be easier for some than others, but this is going to be great for strengthening your core, making sure that it's able to withstand some of the resistance training you're going to be doing later on if you want to stick with this. So, this is the plank. And you may not be able to hold it for very long at the start, but this is all about progression, and each time you do the workout, we want you to try to aim for 5 seconds, 10 seconds more than you did the last time. Remember, this is all about progressing and increasing the amount of volume you do every week, and that way, that's how you improve. So Amanda's gonna start off in a low plank, so it's gonna be on her elbows, like this, and you wanna make sure that your back is flat. You don't want to have your hips dipping down, so show what that looks like when you're letting you don't want this right there where you get that strain in your lower back, right? You want to make sure that it's nice and flat. You also don't want to make sure your hips are raised, right? So when you start getting your hips raised, you start getting really tired, the hips start raising. That's no good. You want to make sure it's nice and flat. If it's not flat, then go ahead and end it. And that way, and so, drop your knees, take a little bit of a rest, and then get back into the plank and hold it in the proper position for as long as you can, and then rest again. So again, you want to do 2 sets when you first start off and increase in the following weeks. And we know that some people may not be able to do the plank in the proper form if you're just doing it straight on the ground. So a nice progression to make it a little bit easier on yourself and then you can eventually work your way up to a normal plank is just by doing a plank on a bench like this. So you just sit there. If you want to get even a better angle, you can do it up on your hands as a high plank. So just so you know, the difference is a high plank and low plank. The low plank is when you're on your elbows, high plank is when you're in hands. So this just gives it, obviously it's not as much tension on your lower back because of the diagonal angle. So it's just a good way to start off like that and then go to the low plank. So that's going to be more difficult right there. And then if you can't transition from there straight to the ground, then maybe, go a little bit lower than that, maybe just like 8 inches off the ground, and then finally go to the ground. So that is just a nice little progression to make it a little bit easier. All right, next one we're gonna have Amanda do is step ups. So you wanna make sure that you're not overdoing it at the very start. So start with something a little bit lower at first, lower than 45 degrees, and you can work your way up. So start like this, just step up. And the first progression is to just come up and tap with your other foot like Amanda just did, okay? So you stay at that height and you step up and you tap, keep your foot up on the weight. So we wanna make sure that you do the same leg, let's say 10 to 12 times, and then you switch. So once you get up to this position you feel comfortable, then you can start driving the knee at the top. So watch, she's driving the knee up. And that's gonna maintain some balance. So make sure that you have your balance before you start doing this. And you can do this move comfortably. All right, Amanda's gonna show you a couple different variations of the bicep curl. You can do any of these in your workout, whatever is most comfortable for you. So first and foremost, we're gonna start off with the hardest variation, and that's with it's called the supinated grip, okay? Palms up, and that's just a regular dumbbell curl, and I'll come up. And as you can see, her elbows stay in the same spot. She's not swinging the weights. The weights aren't coming back here and then coming forward like this. Elbows stay in the same spot. But the problem with this one is that sometimes some people could get some pain in the wrist right here. So don't work through that pain. Listen to your body, and in that case, move to a neutral grip, which is what's called a hammer curl, and that's going to be easier on your wrists. It's going to change the mixture of the muscles in terms of what's the dominating driver of the movement. So, but nonetheless, it is going to be a bicep and forearm exercise. So you can do either of these variations depending on what feels most comfortable for you. All right, so now Amanda's going to show you the glute bridge. This is going to work on your hamstrings and your glutes and your butt. So it's nice and simple. You get on the ground and place your hands at your side and have a nice distance, nice bend in the knees, and you don't want your feet too far out. You want them pretty close to your butt, and you're just going to drive through the heels and drive your hips up into the sky, just like that. Hold for 3 seconds at the top if you can. And some people might, so don't go up all the way. So some people, you may not be able to get this straight line with your quads all the way through your torso because your glutes aren't as strong. That's fine. You'll work up to it. Just get as much range of the motion as possible, but make sure you squeeze your butt and drive through every time, and you'll get higher and higher, and eventually you'll get that full range of motion. But tap your butt on the ground every time. Don't let your body weight rest, and you want to keep constant tension in the glutes. Tricep kickback. This is going to be one of those things that you can do either standing up, you can do it leaning against a wall, or you can do it laying down on an incline bench, and Amanda's going to show you all three. So she's going to do the double arm tricep kickback like this. And make sure you get that full extension and straightening of the tricep, of the elbow and of the arm. Okay, you don't want to half-ass that. So make sure you really squeeze at the top right there, and you're feeling in the back of your arms. Okay, I'll show you a variation on the bench. Okay, so if you want to take your lower back out of the motion. So here she is. She's supported by her chest. She's taking all of the muscles out of the equation and just isolating the triceps. Very good. And if you're one of those people that likes to focus on one arm at a time to really make sure that you're getting the right move, or stand up real quick, you can also do it, just give me this real quick. You can also do it to where you're just kind of leaning forward on one and then kicking back with the other. Okay, so you just do, 10, 12, 15 with one side and then switch and do the other. So those are the 3 variations of your tricep extension. All right, the next move is the banded pull apart. This is gonna be great. It's gonna work on balancing out. A lot of people are like this at their computers all day. So this is gonna strengthen our upper back muscles to kind of bring those shoulders back, some posture correcting exercises. So what we really like to do on these are really great banded pull aparts. There are 2 different variations to do in 2 different grips. So all in all, it's 4 variations, and we like to try to get you to do all 4. So Amanda's gonna show you, so turn to the side so they can see. So I would grab 1 of these bands first and then 2 to make it a little bit harder, but she's gonna do 1. First is you do the underhand grip, the supinated grip, and now, correct, okay, so as you can see, she's squeezing her shoulder blades together at the top here. Now go back, again. And picture like you're doing these, each of these as sets of 1, but you're doing full sets of like 10 or 12, but just make sure every rep is a quality rep and pretend that each rep is its own set in and of itself to make sure that you have the mind-muscle connection. The next way to do it is to protract your shoulders forward, so roll your shoulders out forward like this, like this. Now squeeze it, now pull apart, but keeping your shoulder blades spread. So the difference between this is before she was squeezing her shoulder blades together, now she's keeping them spread apart. It's gonna work a different part of the shoulders. Okay, and then we don't have to show you, but then after she does that, she's gonna flip her hands over and do the same 2 motions, but with a different grip. So what I usually like to do is do 1 or 2 sets of the underhand grip, and then switch over and do 1 or 2 sets of the overhand grip. You can even change the angle, so you can even raise your hands up 45-degree angle, okay, and then bring it down like this. So you can play with that a little bit. Another thing that you can do, here, step away real quick, is put one of these bands and secure it on a bar like this, and do the same type of thing, overhand, underhand, but then this time doing a face pull, okay? So what it is, you going to round your shoulders forward, and as you bring it in, you squeeze your shoulder blades together. So just like this. So this one you would bring it to the neck, or the chin area. Some people like to bring it to the eyes. You can do whatever makes you feel comfortable when you feel that mind-muscle connection. And then you can also flip it the same way we were doing it before. Thumbs back, palms facing each other, and bring it up over the head. So all these are really good to balance out because we do a lot of pressing movements, and it's very easy to do body weight home exercises with pressing movements. But that is a lot of anterior dominance. So it's a lot of chest, a lot of shoulder, and we neglect our back and our upper back and things like that because we often can't do pull-ups, we can't do inverted rows. The equipment isn't as readily available as just dropping down and doing a plank or a push-up. So really make sure that you're not creating muscle imbalances, and make sure you hit your back with the band pull-aparts and the face pulls. All right, now we want to show you lateral band walks. These are great for glute development. A lot of people have problems with getting their glutes to fire and build, and this can create a lot of problems. It can create lower back pain, it can create muscle imbalances and strength imbalances when we get older. So you're going to want to create that and address that as soon as possible. One good way to do this is with lateral band walks. It requires very little equipment, it's very easy to do, and you'll see that just doing 10 reps can really get your glutes firing. You don't need to do that much work to get them to do so. So Amanda can show you the first variation, that's just for the band. The easiest one is to actually have it up above your knees. As you can see, she's got a slight bend in the hips. She's not squatting down all the way, but it's about a quarter squat there. And she's doing just 3 steps to one side and 3 steps to the other. And so you don't need that much space, and you don't need to go crazy like all the way across the room and come back. It's just really nice and controlled, and really just focusing on the mind-muscle connection. Okay, now you can stop. Now the other variation you can do is to step into a large band like this and do the same thing. You're stepping sideways, and then to make it a little bit harder on yourself, on these you can go up a little bit higher, which makes the resistance a little bit harder. But you can see that doesn't take much of a motion to get these things firing. You don't need to do deadlifts, you don't need to lift crazy weight. You just need some small amount of movement in the resistance band and go a long way.